AI is now an enhancer, not a replacer to my valuable content. So I honestly think this is a renaissance for membership sites.
Just keep in mind this entire thing was built using AI as well. And so I don't think that it's a fad. I don't think that it's just, oh, it's just something, cool, it's a gimmick. No, this is really real and powerful, and we really are just getting started.
It adds so much value so quickly, it's kind of surprising, and I'm sure that what you think of to do with it will be better than what we have thought of to do with it. Hey everybody, Micah Mitchell, CEO of Membarium, and I have with me the illustrious, famous Ben Denny of Membarium. Ben wears many hats and has even been crowned with the title of Ben Barium at our latest event. So Ben, welcome, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to talk today.
Yeah, me too, man. So you and I have been on a little bit of a journey here in 2025, building this brand, Membership Coach. And at the beginning of the year, we didn't have this logo, these colors, anything. And today we kind of have, we've gone through almost the whole, I would say, membership life cycle where we built the brand, the website, the content. We sold an event, we did the event, we put those recordings in the members area, and then we even enhanced the members area with customer-facing AI, meaning when you log in and you're watching a video as a member, you have an AI there that kind of knows what's in the video. And we're now full circle to where we have built a plugin for our own use and are finding people really, really love it and want it and are asking for it. And then we made it for other people's use and started kind of showing it to more and more people. And the feedback's been really positive. It's not perfect, right? It's I would even say before beta stage, it's a prototype or something, right? But it is useful. And so I share all that to say that it was a 6 month journey where we kind of went through that whole life cycle that probably for me before would have taken maybe 6 years. Like, in this case, I had the benefit of a lot of experience. So I had some ideas of what we wanted to do. But I can also say, and Ben, you can share your experience here too, that at the beginning of the year, we didn't quite know exactly what we were doing. We just knew we have this event. We need to fill that gap of a brand and the content and the sales to fill the event with some idea that we were going to take those recordings and, you know, start a membership or whatever with them, kind of leverage them. I'm not sure if we saw too much past that. What do you think at the beginning of the year? How far were we looking ahead?
Yeah, it's interesting. And also, yeah, it's been a long 6 months, and it's kind of crazy to actually say that we essentially made all of this in like a span of 6 months, and we did an entire event inside of that. So, wow. And we definitely couldn't have done a lot of that without, assistance from AI, which we've been using, of course, heavily. And that's actually where I think this started, is actually back last year, 2024, we decided we had to be an AI first company. And I don't even think we exactly knew what that even meant at the time. Like, what is that? But we could kind of see, at least, obviously, okay, AI is not going anywhere. Like, we're using it every day. We need to use it more, but also we need to make products with it, essentially, is kind of ultimately where it goes. And I don't just mean like, oh, make a course with it. Like, we have to provide a way for people to use AI kind of within an environment that we created for them, have an experience with AI that way. And so I think that loosely, yeah, we decided like we want to have our membership coach content, our course, and these things. And I think even back then, we just kind of started with the idea like, well, maybe we just would record a course. But then ultimately, we decided, okay, we're going to be doing this event. And I don't remember exactly how we came into that. Do you remember?
I think last fall we were essentially saying the best way to record a course would be live with an audience.
Yeah.
Um, and in part, just to touch on the business side of that decision, if you record a course today, you can sell it today, right? But also, if you set up an event today, you can sell it today. So we kind of did that. We picked a date, we picked a venue, we made the down payments, not only on the venue, but on some vendors, and then started selling the event tickets with the idea being that, yeah, the content would come out at the event, right?
Yeah, and that makes sense. And something I distinctly remember, we've had many conversations. And so all of you are getting a preview of kind of how our normal phone calls go. And sometimes they wind, but um, we were just thinking, because we knew we wanted to kind of document this a little bit, and that's what we're doing even here today. But it was like, well, if somebody wanted to like replicate this, or if somebody wanted to start a new membership site, today in an AI, in a very soon to be AI first world, if it's not already, what is the best approach to it? How do you just start from scratch basically today? And we actually did kind of come to the conclusion that doing a live event probably is one of the best ways to do that, just because you can get live feedback. You're having recordings, you can kind of change things on the fly. So, if you're just going down a whole rabbit hole of things that people don't care about, well, like you can stop that versus you just spend all this time, energy, money, and everything recording a course that you don't even know if people want. And then more importantly, if you can't pre-sell it, then people probably don't want it, or at least the messaging isn't right. So just by forcing yourself to kind of do that. And I think what also helped with us was, yeah, we set a date, we started selling tickets. And so it's like, okay, we actually have to be like on top of this and have all of our content, at least the version one of it done to present at that event and deliver value to people. Because a lot of it was people that we knew, a lot of the attendees, and then
Mhm.
some of them we didn't know. And so it was like, okay, well, like, we got to be on top of our game here. Um, so it's like we really did have a serious deadline, and that's something that, the two of us are probably a little bit bad at sometimes, like
Yeah.
extending the deadlines. So when you kind of have the gun to your head, for lack of a better metaphor there, it's like, yeah, I mean, some pretty cool stuff came out of it. And maybe that's the next thing that you want to share is membership coaches in a brand new business. The way that we just launched it,
Mhm.
it is, but it existed previously and there was an existing framework, but you kind of built upon it. So I think that story would be interesting to share because especially in an AI first world, people having like the a really solid framework, I think is really what's going to be able to let you unlock all the AI capability.
Yeah. So to start with, right, like you said, it was not a brand new business or idea. We had done a live event. I want to say the last one was maybe 2017. And we'd put those recordings in there and maybe we had added some content. So we had the domain, we had a really basic kind of site and things like that. I think you had even recorded a lot of the content in the past, Ben. I just kind of said
Yeah.
like, well, use my stuff and make the content, right? So the first version was uh, to be honest, not great. The original event recordings that went in were good, and then it drifted from there. And so, that's not good. I'm not happy about that, but that is what happened. And so when I decided, hey, we need to redo it, we wanted to redo it for a while, but Membarium was such a pressing need, a lot of 2024 especially, that we just kind of put this off until 2025. But it did give us a clean slate to say, hey, let's just pretend we don't even have that old stuff really and like start from scratch. And that mindset for me especially as the person on the hook for creating the content allowed me to expand on the framework. So what we had before was a four-step framework. And we called it the four stages of membership sites. And that was a pretty good general framework, right? That we could kind of tell people, hey, if you're between 0 and 10 members, you're trying to build, and up to 100, you're trying to sell, up to 1,000, you're trying to retain, and over 1,000, you're adding new products, you're increasing, the price point on programs and things like that because you have a lot of demand, and you're increasing your profit and the value of the company. But for this event, I took that and broke it down. I said each of those four stages should be broken into four stages itself. And I liked that quite a bit when I did it. It was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. This is helpful, I think. And then we broke each of those down again and again until we have 256 kind of levels. So, and what it created, and the reason I'm sharing this is I think everybody can and should do something like this for their market and for their customers. I think the concept I'm sharing right here is basic enough. It doesn't just apply to us. I took each, the highest level, highest chunk understanding of my business, split it into four. You could do three, you could do two, doesn't matter. And then again, each of those and just extrapolated it down to where now each of those 256 level, that's like a sentence or a slide. But altogether, they are in such great chronological, sequential order that somebody can drop in anywhere depending on where they're at in their membership journey and continue on. And it makes a lot of principled sense, right? There, of course, are edge cases and exceptions, but that was the approach that I took to build the framework, was simply, like I said, just dividing it down. Um, and we can share or put a link to like a note card exercise that makes that easy for people to do, with tangible note cards
Yeah.
that people have liked for a long time. So it's valuable exercise. But yeah, just to state it real simply once more, is the framework was me choosing what to talk about, right? And what to prioritize in each section. So it was kind of saying like, well, yeah, you could talk about 20 things on this, but what are just the top three? And then within that, just the top three, and within that, just the top three, or four, or whatever you want to do. And that gives your product kind of priority in something special. So these days, versus somebody going to ChatGPT and saying, how do I make a membership site? They're going to get an amalgamation of all the content out there, et cetera, with training, feedback. But what I have is 20 years of experience, and I'm assuming a lot of membership site owners out there have similar, years of experience in a field, that you understand the framework enough to put down something specific, saying, "Hey, here's an actual path that's real and followed, not AI generated," right? But then on top of that framework, you can use AI to do a lot more. And so we can get into more of that. But yeah, as far as the framework goes,
Yeah.
hope I didn't overkill that, but that's how I kind of think about it.
No, I thought it was great. And yeah, we'll definitely put the link below or somewhere so people can watch the note card exercise from the event, even the latest version of that. Because that is basically what you did. I mean, you kind of, ate your own dog food, so to speak. And like, this is kind of meta, but it was like you were following your own framework while, creating this, expanded framework. So this stuff really does work. And everybody that we've shown this to, lots of people at the event even commented on this particular kind of method for developing the content or the framework. I don't like to use content necessarily. And the reason why I wanted you to share that is because it's so important. AI is really only as good as the input that you give it. At least right now, it can't like read your mind. It can kind of connect some dots and things, but by having that framework, it greatly sped up the process. On my end, of making like the initial version of the slides and everything else and getting AI as well to kind of extrapolate on it and just understand what we were doing. And so it's like if you're just staring at a blank page and then, if you go into ChatGPT and like help me make a framework, like it's probably not going to come out as awesome as if you know, really just sat down and used your brain power to come up with at least that initial thing. And then if you want to have AI help you with all the other stuff, it's great. But you're giving it that initial seed, which is very strong. And we keep finding that. We were actually doing some copy stuff the other day, and it was the same thing. Like you provided some really good copy, and then next thing you know, AI is writing like fantastic copy. It's like, so there's something to be said about, putting in that the human touch and all of that. And so what we did once you had the framework and for the event is we actually created prompts for every single one of those steps, the 64 steps. So and we'll share some of this, but the idea was just at the event, we didn't have like an AI tool ready, but we figured we'd give people the prompts, and then that way they could kind of get AI to help them brainstorm or implement or whatever it was for that particular step. So some sort of, applying AI to that step. And that was kind of the first version of it. And we realized, um, obviously the experience could be better versus them having to copy a prompt. And we'll get into that in a second. But just even that level of just doing the prompts is kind of a big breakthrough if you really think about it, because it takes something where on one end of the spectrum you have one-on-one stuff, and if Mike is one-on-one coaching you about your membership site, he is entirely focused on you, your circumstances, he knows what your strengths, weaknesses are, whatever, and all the different inputs basically of what's going on with your situation, so he can then of course guide you, direct you, whatever, consult with you on that. But when you're making a course, you don't have that. You kind of have to make it a little bit more generic so that it can apply to multiple people, one to many, the other end of the spectrum. And so, and maybe somewhere in the middle is like group coaching or something where, you can give a little bit of time to everybody, but it's still kind of following a generalized framework. But the cool thing about AI and even just giving people the prompts is that it actually lets AI, you make the one to many content and then it lets AI kind of bridge the gap of how does this apply to me and my circumstances? And even with the frameworks that we had in the past, like the four stages, we'd get questions all the time. Well, I mean, I'm this, and this. Like, how does that apply exactly to my situation? Because, like you said, there's always exceptions and those things. And that's where AI is like awesome because, cool, we have this framework. It really is a proven framework, 20 years of experience, as Mike has said. But again, people come up with these unique situations or questions or they just can't get it to click in their head for some reason. And that's where AI is awesome. So I'm just kind of rambling now, so I'll turn it back over to you and just, maybe you can say it in a more succinct way.
Sure. Yeah, to point out one thing, when I created the framework, I didn't use AI at all. I purposefully went where I was actually just at a steakhouse, like, kind of thinking this out and not using the internet to look anything up, but just from my mind, right? But then, like you're saying, then on top of that, since that's a nice human layer for the AI to act on and to have kind of unique input, um, then we were able to, like you're saying, put prompts on that layer and say, well, let's help people achieve what it is we're trying to teach them. So instead of, hey, go think about your avatar and come up with it and write it down, and that sounds like a lot of work, more like, hey, just come up with a couple attributes, give those to this prompt, and this prompt will give you an avatar that's kind of fleshed out, as an example. And so it was having a base layer that's kind of special and unique, right? And then AI magnifies off of that. Similar, I think, to automation, just copying anything in general. If it's bad, the copies are bad, right? The seed is bad or whatever. So where we're at today, just to give like a broad timeline. So we're coming up on the 6 month mark in a few weeks. That'll be the end of June from when we started this. And right about in the middle was the event itself. So we took about 3 months. Let's make the brand, let's make the content, let's make the workbook, let's do the event. And you can probably share on the video here, Ben, some of the comments from people at the event because they really did love the AI. They really did love the structure, right?
Yeah.
I feel like almost any I could have presented on sewing, which I know very little about, even though I did take a sewing class in high school. And with enough structure and I could deliver somebody something pretty good, better than the average thing out there, to be honest. So then after the event, then it was up to Ben to edit all that footage, right? You got a massive amount of footage because we had a two camera shoot and um, a bunch of audio inputs and all these things going on at the event. It's kind of complicated from an AV perspective to record the content for this purpose, right? Um, and it was hard for me as the presenter, not hard, but just a challenge is what I should say, to really try to take care of the audience the whole time and be very aware of what's going into the cameras, what angle, what lighting, is the mic getting to the person who's asking the question and things like that. But altogether, right, we had a great team. It came off well. And so now Ben's dealing with all these recordings. And that was mostly that fourth month. So month one was branding, month two was selling the event, month three was planning the event content, like the specifics, printing the workbooks, and so on. And then month four was pretty much putting that content into a members area. And Ben had pre-built the members area to a degree so the videos could slot in. But Ben, why don't you share what it was like to to get the video footage from the event from the videographer and be like, whoa, that's a lot of footage.
Yeah, that was interesting. So yeah, I mean he gave me a drive. Actually, it's sitting right here. And so this had 500 something gigabytes of footage on it. And you're like, wow, how do we begin to process that? So, but actually the way we recorded was, it was done in such a way that you could honestly just kind of look at the slide changes and then make the cuts, and so you'd have to listen and make the cut at the right time, but it wasn't too difficult. It was just time consuming. And yeah, and then we took those videos and obviously uploaded all of them into Vimeo in our case, and then put them into the site. Um, and something that we have kind of alluded to, but didn't exactly explain just yet, is that in the site, in addition to the video, there was also essentially a chat box that was an AI, and that's where we took the prompt that was shared in the video, because in our actual slides, we had a slide that has a prompt, and then we would take that prompt and put it into this chat box. And so when somebody hit the page, they would have the video, and then they would also have the AI chat that was preloaded with the prompt that we gave them. So they didn't have to copy and paste it into another third, like ChatGPT or some other AI system. They could just chat right there, and they could save their responses and other things. And we can talk more about that, but that was really just a time-consuming thing, to be entirely honest. But to Micah's point, and having done the event now, like there's probably like a lot of things that we would do differently or just like to improve things. But um, I wasn't up there speaking, so it was probably very challenging, like you said, to like answer people's questions, and they would just interrupt you, during like you're saying something. So, we're trying to trim these things out of the recordings as much as possible, to keep them succinct for people who are watching. But I will say the other thing is every video is probably only, like probably the average video length is like 5 minutes on there, maybe six. So they're really pretty short videos, and they just kind of cover one little thing. So you could honestly, look through the list of them, or the lessons in our case, and choose what you want. You could probably just pick up right in a video. Like they're not, I mean, they are sequential, so you would benefit by going through all of them in order, but at the same time, like they're kind of contained within themselves. And so that's an interesting thing. What we had done before the event, like Micah said, was we had built a very basic, like extremely, extremely basic version of the site. We used LearnDash just so that we didn't have to like, do a bunch of custom stuff, just to drop the videos in. And the other thing that we had done is that little AI widget. We had kind of built a very rudimentary version of that. Like it really didn't look very good. It had like super basic functionality. And so, but we knew that we wanted that, and that would kind of be, at least for now, a differentiator. Like, cool, you can actually come in and there's like an AI, utility here, that you can use. So, um, and that's another thing that, kind of going back to a high level and backing up from our story just a second is, you know, there's a lot of content out there nowadays. And like we've even, said this for a long time. Like it's not about having the most content on your membership site. In fact, it's probably having like the least amount of content, but still being able to deliver the result, because people want the result faster and easier, than ever before. And so I can go on YouTube and learn anything for free, basically. So the benefit of me buying your course or joining your membership program is that you're delivering it in a way that is, more structured, easier to understand and consume, shorter and faster. Basically, you're just giving me the signal instead of me having to search through, signal versus noise. And I think that that's really what AI does in this case, is that, it's kind of funny, because after we had put all the videos in, we, had shared it with people, and like some people had given us really good feedback. Um, but there was one guy, and he said that, it wasn't really useful to him just because it was kind of more of a high level, the videos. The interesting thing about that, though, is that people who were using the AI tool, it's almost like, and I wonder, we didn't have a way to track this at the time, but it's almost like they probably didn't even need to watch the videos since we had the AI tool, it had the transcripts and everything else. And so, again, that's what I'm saying. There's kind of a shift going on where it's less about the content itself and it's more about the result that you can provide, which it was always about the result and the outcome, but it's almost even less important, like the production quality and those things. Not that, you should do it in a really bad way, but um, yeah, again, maybe Micah, you can explain that a little bit better.
I love everything you're saying, but yeah, to pick up where you're leaving off, somebody needing to watch the video, interpret the steps for themselves, take action, be creative. We basically go through all these, not just steps, but kind of like different modalities and expect them to get across that bridge safely to the other side, which is the result, versus like you're saying today with AI, it can kind of, knowing who the user is, right? Do a little onboarding, ask them a few questions about themselves, knowing the content, it can then say, hey, I can tell you need this, and look, I've done it for you
Yeah.
if I can, right? Or done a version one for you that you can run with and edit versus have to start from scratch. So we started, as Ben is saying, we started by just putting an AI next to the actual content, saying, well, when somebody comes in as a member and they hit the content, let's have this prompt embedded in the page that they can interact with. And then that concept grew a little bit from, well, they don't only want AI there on the page with the lesson that they're consuming, but maybe we need it in the onboarding and maybe to sign up a free member, right? And we've even kind of done a little prototyping with a little bit of sales. Maybe there's a an agent here when somebody's logged in and they bought program one that says, hey, it looks like based on your activity, you'd be a good fit for program two. Here's a special offer to upgrade or something. So, and it wouldn't just be an ad though, it would actually be based on, yeah, this does make sense. The next step in your journey is in this other program if you would like it. So I think it improves the member's experience, and that's where I think our focus has been the most. So most people, I think, in memberships are probably thinking, I'm going to use AI to generate videos and to generate my content and blog posts, right? To actually generate stuff. But I think AI's strongest use case, and we might be in a unique position because we have some of these membership sites, a lot of them that are like 10 years old running our software, it's a lot less than 10 years old, but some that old. And but their experience, they have a depth of content, and so they don't need more content. They don't. In fact, AI spinning up content for their competitors is their worst nightmare, right? So what do you do about that? And I think instead you say, hey, I have unique, proven content that's been up and around and people have been using for X number of years. And now I've attached AI on top of that, right? AI is now an enhancer, not a replacer to my valuable content. So I honestly think this is a renaissance for membership sites. There was a moment where it's like, oh, is this going to kill everything? And then it was like, oh no, everyone who is in this business now actually has a huge leg up on everyone else because we all have original content pre-AI that we can leverage, right? So, um, and that originality makes it better than somebody spinning it off of AI because everyone can spin it off of AI. They don't have anything unique, and you do. But you can still enhance it, right? Multiply it. So that's kind of the approach we took. And to kind of give again the timeline here. So in the middle of this timeline, we did the event. So first 3 months it took to just get to like live in Scottsdale. We have an audience and cameras and content and workbooks and everybody's happy and it's a good time. Um, although, I'm stressing, it might have been one of the most stressful weeks of my life. Maybe
No
for you too,
kidding.
I don't know. But then, April, month four, we put the content in the site. Month five, what happened is we kind of had to chill and take care of the customers and the users, some of the early people we got, because at the event we sold some people certification so they can become a certified partner of Membership Coach, right? So the new brand, we have the course and then we just put questions on top of it and designed a badge. And that is now a certification product. So another level of leverage. But we had those people who we needed to deliver the site to, and then they needed to come in and we kind of needed to follow up and make sure they were getting what they wanted and it was good and we got good feedback. Like Ben said, and I'm glad you brought it up because I wanted to bring this up. We had one customer, longtime customer, guy I just love. So I feel terrible about this, but he was like, he basically bought the course and asked for a refund and wasn't happy about it, right? And so we apologized. We gave him a refund, and I even said like, "Hey, I'm going to do something special for you to make up for the time that you lost." And the issue was the course is really more of a basics course in a way. Some of the people we know thought parts about it, right? Could appreciate the framework and thought that was advanced. Could appreciate the AI prompts and thought that was advanced. But to this guy, none of that was advanced, and he was like, he's way past that, right? And I realized, oh, that's on us, right? That's on me for not making the positioning more clear that this might not be for you if you already know these, A, B, and C, or you're already using this tech or whatever. It is maybe more for your team to get up to speed, or more for an aspiring membership site owner, the course itself, right? Some of the content, because it's like we're saying basic principle framework. And I think this guy was looking for total ninja, blow your mind stuff, but that was our fault for writing marketing that kind of led him to believe that, right? So, anyways, long story short, it's like, okay, the course is just kind of a basic thing now. It's not the main, it isn't the main course. It's not the entree. It is the appetizer. And the main thing now that we have is we have this AI plugin that has been developed during the month of May mostly, right, as we were fulfilling to those clients, and then more here in June. and then is going live here in June. And that plugin, I think, is the ultimate version of a membership, which is a utility. And I've sold content type memberships, coaching, masterminds, all the things, still do. But software is a different game because instead of somebody saying, "Oh, well, I got all the learning I need from that, I'm canceling this," it's something that is helping them every day, month in and out, year in and out. So they just keep paying for it. I was actually surprised to see last year that there are subscriptions in our system that have been running for 10 years on the same plan, same card. I'm sure the expiration date of the card updated, but just sitting and running for 10 years, right? Billing. That's what software is like. Membership sites are not quite that way. So this idea of adding AI to your site starts to blur that line. You become a SaaS, you become a platform that they go to not only learn, but to run a function, right? To run a prompt, and of course these prompts can build spreadsheets, create documents. It really is a software. So your membership site pretty much becomes a SaaS when you add AI to it. Um, and I think we are just I wouldn't even say we're getting started. I would say we got a glimpse of what can happen because the few little use cases we plugged in and then talked to people about, they started asking about a bunch of things we had not considered but make perfect sense. And I think that is just gonna, you know, grow on a exponential curve, the ideas and the things that you can do with it because everybody's ideas are going to come into play, but then the tech that we're talking about is going to expand under us, right? It's going to get better at all these things and suddenly be able to connect more dots, right? And eventually connect enough dots to draw a whole picture. Next year, we're going to do a live event in Costa Rica next summer, and we're calling it the Age of Agentics. So it's going to be the Membership Summit Age of Agentics. This year is just Membership Summit AI edition, right? Just let's get started. Next year, going to be full on agents. I'm pretty sure. Agents will be here. They already are here, but I bet by next summer they're going to be better than people for the most part. So I know I'm going out on a whole AI thing there, but I fought it honestly. Just to be real clear, we were not necessarily early adopters of AI. We took it very timidly because we didn't want it, hallucinating and breaking anything that we had built, especially on the Memberium side. We took a long time to train the AI bot that lives on that site now. And it is not even our own software. We paid for some other software at the time. But where it is now and the way people are accepting and adopting and running with it, I almost feel late to the game with what we're doing. But I did recently listen to something from a venture capitalist who I really respect, who was essentially saying, like, often when you feel late, it is almost a good sign because it means the demand is heavy, and so it's actually good timing. Um, yeah, Ben, maybe on the screen, I'm sure you can show the plugin, but why don't you kind of talk about the process of building it? Because I think a lot of our customers out there now with AI, you can use it to program. That's kind of what Ben did. Ben's really savvy, right? He's been doing Memberium support, which includes all sorts of custom code and dealing with servers. Um, but what was it like to actually code a WordPress plugin to create this result, this kind of AI genie thing that gets to live on people's membership sites?
Yeah, I'll share that. And I'll have to comment on some of the other things you said too, but it ties into the plugin. The actual building of it, again, we started and we weren't, I don't think initially planning to necessarily share it. I mean, not that we wouldn't share it. It was just we were trying to build something for ourselves and really a proof of concept. I'm not, a developer by trade or anything, and I don't think, Micah, you wouldn't consider yourself. I mean, we could
No.
both do a little scripting probably here and there, but yeah, so like building an entire plugin, I mean, it started, and this is crazy, but it really just started with talking to probably at the time ChatGPT or Claude. Those are the two models that I use very heavily. And Gemini is also a great model for coding recently. Um, but it really wasn't even about coding initially. It was just about talking through how this could work. And because actually, probably also in 2024, we had done some prototyping of something that eventually kind of got scrapped, but it was pretty cool on the way it worked. And it was kind of maybe even a first version of what we actually ended up building here. And so really we just conceptually talked with, an AI model, which is again, this is how learning is going to happen in the future. I mean, I don't know how to code, but I was able to explain what I wanted, and then it was showing me possible methods to, achieving it. And so that was just kind of mind-blowing because I'm sure I'm sure even you watching, you probably have ideas or, oh, I wish my site had this little widget or functionality. Like you could probably just go talk to any of these models and like get something that would work. So it's just it's mind blowing how it works, and it's like Micah said, it's so early stages. Um, so anyway, it started really just by okay, cool, and then it was like, well, how do we actually like make this into a WordPress plugin? And obviously, we've been working in WordPress for years, so we know a little bit about the tech stack behind that. Everything's written in PHP and things, and so we had to start writing code, knowing that it would be a WordPress plugin. It was like copy and paste from ChatGPT into files, and it was really slow. And then we came across other tools, and one that we really love right now is called Cursor, Cursor. And it's an AI tool. It has a whole editor, and then there's like an AI panel on it next to the side, to the right. And you can put in requests and things, and it will update the code for you. And it kind of has context of the code, and it can search things and find what it needs. So is it perfect? No, not at all. I mean, sometimes it just like goes off the rails and does crazy stuff, but that's of course why you take backups and work slowly with it. But the fact that you're able now to develop entire software, I mean, we're doing it in WordPress, which is, I think, a great way to do it because WordPress kind of gives you the structure already. Like, we're not building like a login system like WordPress has that. We don't have to build every single like little piece. We're actually just kind of adding functionality to WordPress. So it gives us a nice, safe environment to work in, and we don't have to worry, just a ton about like all the security things, because again, WordPress is handling a lot of that. Um, but anyway, at the same time, you could probably build, just like an entire, you could build whatever you wanted with it. I'm convinced. I've seen people doing it as well, using the same tools we're doing. So that's ultimately how it started. And it was really just a prototype. It's like we just need this for ourselves. And then as we were showing it to people at the event, and then some other people as well outside of the event, they were all like, "Yes, I need that basically." And can it do this too? Can you upload a PDF? And it can analyze that and give feedback. And so from all these requests and like seeing the demand for it, like Micah said, it was like, oh wow, like something like this doesn't exactly exist yet. Um, and then of course we realized like we got to turn this into something that's actually like usable because the way it was really kind of hacky and there wasn't a great interface on it and those things. And so we have spent a lot of time, refining it and polishing it. And I still think, like you said, it's still kind of prototype phase, but it's very functional. It's very stable the way it currently works. And so you can create. Um, at first, it started, and actually, I will share this because you did share the three things that you have. You have lead magnets, you have onboarding, and then you have what we call content coaches, but really just these little chat bots that you can pair with your content, or I guess you could even use it by itself if you wanted to. But the idea is that it has a preloaded prompt. And it started just with that, where we really just wanted a chat bot that we could put a prompt in and say, help the user with such and such. But then we also wanted to draw context from it as well, like what do we know about them? And so, we offered these fields where they could put in stuff. In our case, like their membership site name and, a link to their site and like their pricing and, maybe some description or instructions. And so they would be able to update those fields, which would be saved across all their chats. And then this way, they wouldn't have to like re-explain who they are every time. And then we realized, especially as the steps were all sequential, like they should really be able to like save the chat if they liked the output from the AI or they liked the conversation. And then the next step should just understand everything that they just said in the last step. Like, so basically, it's not like they're having to restart the conversation over every time, and the AI can draw on all of this. And so we made that functionality. And so now the way that the system works now is that the more they use the AI, very similar to ChatGPT and some of the other tools that you're probably already familiar with, is that this thing's actually learning about you the more you use it. And so it can get even more specific, more tailored, more personalized to your circumstances. And it's super powerful. There's obviously our example was like helping people with membership sites, but some other examples and demos we've made. One was actually for this was just a demo, but it was just a fitness thing. And so the idea was like, you could come in and it could help you make a meal plan, for example. And you could say, oh, I don't like, broccoli or whatever. So like it won't include broccoli, or I'm allergic to this or whatever, or I love these foods. And so it could kind of like do that. And of course you can do this in ChatGPT, but especially if are a fitness instructor or something along those lines, you probably have a certain type of diet and things. And you could put all that information into the system so that it gives meal plans that follow your program and your guidance and advice. So that's kind of the benefit, is that ChatGPT is very generalized advice. And then what you can do within your own site with a tool like this, leveraging the same model that ChatGPT uses, we're just connecting to OpenAI directly. You're able to actually, kind of control the experience that people have. But then it kind of became a little bit more, we realized like that's great, like in the site, but like how do we use this to maybe get more people, more free members and all that. And so we came up with the idea of like, well, this would actually be awesome as a lead magnet, because like if you could give people like a taste of this, and they might actually sign up and like want more, AI. So we made the little lead magnet thing, and it's really the same exact thing. Like, they can answer a few questions that you get to set up, and then it asks them for their name and email, and that just goes to your CRM, which we have integration with. And then it gives them like a report basically based on, what they said, and then the instructions that you tell the AI. So we made one just the other day for a client of ours, and he's all about natural medicine and those sorts of things. And um, he's a doctor actually. And so what we did was, the questions that we put in was like, are you currently having, facing a health problem? What is that problem? What have you tried so far? What are you frustrated by? And then we basically just kind of scanned his website for all of his resources that he has, and gave that to the AI as well. And so when they fill out the questionnaire and they put in their name and email, it spits out a report that gives them kind of what his approach to solving this would be. Of course, not medical advice, but just telling them like, hey, like here's all the resources. Like, you might subscribe to the newsletter. You might check out, this and that page because, it has information that's related to your problem. And so again, he has a ton of content on his site, as, a lot of people do. And what this does is it just kind of injects like new life into it, is probably the best way I could explain it. Like it takes dead content that people had forgotten about, maybe you even forgot about it, like all these blog posts, and then the AI can actually point people to it. And that's actually the last thing that we made. And we do have more stuff that we're working on, but this is functional today, and that's the onboarding. So once they actually got into the site, whether they signed up for free or whether they paid, you could put them through an AI onboarding flow where instead of just dropping them into a dashboard or whatever, now you actually have the AI. It's asking questions. You can save those answers. And so future uses of the AI can reference that. But the best use case that I've come across for this is really just directing people to the right content. So, especially the sites that have a lot of content, this is great because it's almost like having like the Netflix recommendations engine, or or Hulu or whatever. You sign in and it's like, hey, here's your for you, right? And that's kind of what this does. It asks them the questions and then uses that to say, cool, like, start anywhere you want, but I'd recommend this, this, and this. And so it just kind of gives them a better spot to jump off of versus just dropping them to a dashboard. So that's really how it went. And I know I kind of explained the entire plugin there. And of course, you saw some screenshots that we uploaded in the editing here. But just keep in mind, this entire thing was built using AI as well. And so I don't think that it's a fad. I don't think that it's just, oh, it's just something, cool. It's a gimmick. No, this is really real and powerful. And we really are just getting started.
Yeah, I'm glad you went into that much depth because showing that much depth and realizing that's just the stuff that we could implement so far. We've had way more ideas than that, right? As we're doing it, we're like, oh, this applies kind of everywhere. And what's crazy is a lot of the things we've built, you can, like you said, oh, the content coach, you could put it on a page with no content and just let it be a coach, right? Or a consultant or whatever. And meaning in the back end, feed it content and a prompt and so on. But on the front end, the user can just see a chat box, right? Um,
I
and it
just
will
have to
know. Yeah, go ahead.
interject here and say something too that you saying that kind of reminded me of. And every time we've been building, we're adding a new feature to this, or a new module. It's crazy because like we'll see other people talking about like conceptually this, and like we're actually over here building it. There was a creator that both Mike and I kind of follow. I didn't even know that were listening to him. But he made this video and he was talking about like the future of like content creation and things, and basically saying how ultimately what we just described is what he was saying. And we were like just blown away because we'd both seen that video. And then crazy enough, he took the video down. So I don't know if like he if he was like, oh, I shouldn't have said all that. But it's I guess I'm interested to hear, what all of you think who are watching. And so, but at the same time, like there's confirmation just coming from all angles of like, yeah, this is seemingly where this is kind of heading.
Yeah, I'd agree. On that note, yeah, let's just invite people, ask a question or book a call below this to check it out. We can put it on your site. We could put it on a staging area of your site so that you can go crazy with it, without harming your site. But it's really kind of it adds so much value so quickly. It's kind of surprising, and I'm sure that what you think of to do with it will be better than what we have thought of to do with it for your use case. So yeah, like I said, I would go below the video and feel free to ask a question. Feel free to book a call. You can, just sign up if you'd like, in which case you will get an onboarding call. It is early days, but that also means that we are available more to support you. And especially in these early days, we don't want anyone having any sort of experience that isn't top notch. So we're happy to spend as many hours and as much, whatever it takes, helping you kind of get it going and learning it and understanding what to do with it. So, yeah, let us know how we can help. I hope this was useful. I guess I'd say as a recap, in month 5 we really built the plugin, and here in month 6 we're kind of now just looking at the market and saying like, okay, how do we introduce all these things? Because we now have a mastermind and a coaching group, certification program, a software, a course, an event next year to sell, right? We have this whole almost like info marketer's dream that we didn't have 6 months ago. And it was in part to demonstrate to all of you and to future people that, hey, this is a route to follow, not the only one. But we kind of sprinted, and it still took about that long to do it the way we did it. But we were trying to do it at a high level. I'm sure we could have done it quicker, but we were like, we're going to get the brand professionally done and spend a month on it if we have to. And we're going to spend the time and the money, right? We spent so much money on the event. We lost a lot of money getting the event filmed. We can recoup that, but just saying we took it seriously and we took the time to do it. And all of this was done on top of Membarium, meaning the actual site is powered by Membarium. And what Ben was saying about, well, we're making a plugin that sits on WordPress. This plugin can be used on its own, but so far we've designed it to go with Membarium essentially. So Membarium shortcodes, for example, will work in these AI things. So in your onboarding, you can pop up a magic step with a Membarium shortcode for them to change their password or whatever they need to update, right? So I want to make sure, and we started with saying like, yeah, this is for Membarium users, and I want to end that way saying this is for Membarium users. When we even built into this AI plugin some integration with Keep, so that if they do answer a certain way or do a certain thing, you can tag them or whatever you need to do to begin or end automations in the process. So it's meant to augment and add to whatever membership or course process you're running on your site and just make it better with AI. So not replace it, not replace you, but show your customers that you have front end AI. You will actually be giving them an AI experience, right? And if they don't know any different, that makes you look like you're ahead of the curve, most likely in your industry. Ben, any last things you want to say here?
Just that obviously, working with tons of different Memberium site owners, um, it's funny that the whole thing about utility is just so important because, content, there's always going to be content, but it's a commodity. It's becoming a commodity if it's not already in some markets. And so people, if somebody's going through a financial tough time, they don't cancel utilities. No one turns off their electricity, or their
Mhm.
internet, they go and they cancel their Netflix subscription maybe, and those sorts of things, but they're not turning off utilities. And so it's like, how do you make your site a utility? And I've seen people in the past, before kind of this whole AI stuff came about, what were they doing? Well, they were using like gravity forms and trying to make all these crazy quizzes and different outputs that would happen. And so I've seen people try to do this sort of stuff. And that's the hard way to do it. But they knew that they needed to do it, like provide something like an actual tool for their customers, calculators, just different things. And now you don't have to do all that work. You just have to come up with what the idea is, and we can help you do that. Book a call and I'll brainstorm with you and we'll use AI and come up with something for you. Yeah, like, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm gonna put exactly your problem into an AI and see what it comes up with. But but you don't have to do all this like crazy programming and custom stuff anymore. That's what we're trying to bring to you is the toolbox to kind of build these things and build these experiences for members. And whether you market it as AI or not, that's up to you. But I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, it's about actually helping people. I mean, that's what your membership site's about. And, hopefully you get rich in the process as well. But I really do think that the outcomes people have with something like this is so much better than not having it.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's better than the traditional membership site, and it is better than AI on its own, right? You put the two together,
Yeah.
better. So yeah, book a call below, or ask a question, or just sign up if you want to do that. But hopefully this was useful, even if you don't sign up. Hopefully it was a good educational experience on kind of where we're at, and we'll make some videos like this in the future as we go down the path and kind of let you know how things turned out. Thanks, Ben.
All right. Thanks.